Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, in for Fran Stoddard. Vermont athletes have an impressive record when it comes to representing the United States in the Olympics, particularly the Winter Olympics. At least one Vermont athlete has competed in every Winter Games since 1956. Nearly 24 Vermonters earned an Olympic berth for the 2022 Winter Games in Beijing, China. And one of those Vermonters was Megan Nick, a Shelburne native who soared to a bronze medal in the ski aerials competition. Megan wasn't the only Vermonter to climb the podium in Beijing, but her ascent was a journey unlike most others. Megan is currently on break from her training and visiting her family in Shelburne, where she joins us via Zoom. Megan, good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm guessing that maybe 6 months ago, after a certain evening in Beijing, that your life changed a little or a lot. How so?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I think the biggest difference between February now is that I've had a lot of cool opportunities, especially in Vermont. I got to be the commencement speaker at CVU graduation, which was really cool. And Shelburne hosted a day for me. So it's been really cool to come back to Vermont and be able to celebrate with everyone.
I think that's what part of an Olympic story like yours is about. There's a lot of pride that occurs in Vermont. Whether you're a small town, an urban area, you felt that. You felt the love of Vermonters, I'm guessing.
Yes, absolutely. It feels really special to have such a tight-knit community behind me and supporting me the whole time. And I felt it all the way through competing at the Olympics, which was really cool.
So like a lot of Vermonters, you grew up skiing. Whereabouts and who taught you?
So I grew up skiing. Well, I learned at Cochran's, and my dad taught my brothers and I from a really young age. I never really got good at skiing, but I knew how to ski. So that was the most important part when this whole thing came about.
Well, there's folks that might disagree with you about your ability to ski. Bronze medal will tell us that. Growing up, you told me you wouldn't necessarily have said, oh, skiing's my favorite sport. I understand that was reserved for gymnastics. Is that right?
Yes, I started gymnastics when I was 3. So I learned how to ski at the same time I started gymnastics. And then around 10, I started competing. And so that kind of took over my life. So I wasn't really skiing from middle school to high school when I found out about aerials. So yeah, it was a little rusty.
Well, what were your goals as a gymnast? Your mom tells the story that even then you wanted to compete in the Olympics. Was that going to be as a gymnast?
Yes, I grew up always wanting to go to the Olympics for gymnastics, but I quickly realized that that was not realistic, which was a hard thing to come to terms with. But gymnastics was such a special sport to grow up competing in, and I'm really grateful for the sport.
So that might be an important point for a young person growing up who has goals and maybe you didn't achieve them. There might have been an injury. When you talk about having to maybe adapt and change those goals in gymnastics, that was a growth period in your life? That taught you a lot?
Yes. Yeah. I think gymnastics teaches you not only physical strength, but a lot of mental strength and pushing your limits. So that, I think, really helped me when I started aerial skiing. I had a lot of benefits from being a gymnast growing up.
Now, most public high schools have special senior year programs, and depending on where you grow up, those programs might have different names, but what they have in common is a sort of an in-depth, independent study designed by the student. As you've said, you went to Champlain Valley Union High School, where the senior program is called Graduation Challenge, and your graduation challenge was life-changing. Is that fair?
Yes, yeah, that's fair to say.
So how so? What happened?
At the end of my junior year, I heard about this aerial tryout camp, and I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do for my grad challenge. And this 1 week camp seemed like an easy way to finish. And I don't think I would have attended that camp if it weren't for Grad Challenge because it was scary. I had never heard of aerial skiing. It was in Lake Placid. And so I convinced a few of my teammates from gymnastics to come with me, and I finished my Grad Challenge within a week in June. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Super easy.
So our director, Adam Wright, has put up a picture from Lake Placid. My understanding, the camp was free, and this was at the beginning of your senior year, the summer between your junior and senior year in high school. So that was in 2013, is that right?
Yes, it was June of 2013, I think, the end of it. And then 2 weeks later, about mid-July, they asked me to join the development team. And so I moved out in July of 2013 to Lake Placid to train full time.
So I got to ask, what's that like? All of a sudden somebody calls and says, hey, we know you've never done this before, but do you want to be on our development team?
It was a pretty crazy experience, but honestly, it worked out so well because I knew that my senior year of high school is probably my last of gymnastics, which was really hard because it was a sport I loved. I loved the adrenaline I got from gymnastics, and I just didn't know what college had in store for me and that in terms of sport. And so it came at a perfect time for me.
I'm going to get to your college career in just a moment, but you're joining this development program. What did that mean? Did you start competing and climbing right away? Is that how it worked?
Oh gosh, no. It took 3 years in Lake Placid of really learning the foundations of the sport and also learning how to ski again and be confident on my skis. That was really hard for me on snow. And so, yeah, there was like a 3-year period where I was on the NORAM level just trying to figure out how to even do the sport.
You talked about sort of returning, feeling the snow. These are two very different things. As we see you soaring 30, 40 feet in the air, there's also this grounded part. So skiing has become more than it used to be. In other words, it isn't just the aerials. You need to spend time recreationally skiing. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And it is a fun part because I got to go skiing with my friends a lot more, and I got to kind of fall in love with the sport all over again. I think I lost that when gymnastics took over my life. So it was a cool opportunity to be able to become good at skiing again, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, this is where I'm going to add that it's one thing to watch these aerial competitions, but to understand how high you're soaring is really, in my opinion, spectacular. Depending on the jump, you as skiers, you're between 20 and 50 feet in the air. You're being judged on takeoff, on form, and landing. And just so you know, this is a picture of Megan winning the 2022 U.S. Nationals about 6 weeks after the Olympic Games. Megan, it brings up the subject of danger. As a world-class competitor, I'm guessing danger probably doesn't enter your mind, or does it?
I think that that's a common misconception with our sport. I think every athlete, I think we all recognize the danger that comes with competing in aerials, but I think we all handle it mentally different. For me personally, I rely on my training and trust that I have the skills to, even if something goes wrong, I can still be safe and walk away from the jump. So I think I rely a lot on compartmentalizing and trusting and relying on my training to get me through the day.
So you've sort of walked us through this high school, through the nationals. You're named to the U.S. Aerials team in 2017. What did that mean? You're now competing at a world-class level. You've gone to college, you've completed a degree. Tell us about that connection of your athleticism and also being a world-class competitor. You've graduated from the University of Utah with a degree in economics, is that right?
Yes, yep. And now I'm at University of Denver online, getting my master's degree in environmental policy and management, which has been really exciting. And I think it's important for me and a lot of athletes to have that, I guess, work-life balance or school training balance, because it helps you not overthink training. For me personally, I can come home from training for the day and just focus on school. And sometimes it can add stress to your training, but other times it can take it off because you don't go home and overthink everything that didn't go right in your training because you have to get school done. And that's helped me a lot. And I'm passionate about school and things beyond the sport. And so that's helped too.
So What's that balance like today? Is your career as an athlete to continue for another Olympics or another world championship, another national championship? Or is this a transition time where you will become more academic and begin, enter the other working world, I guess is the way I want to say it?
Yeah, so I haven't exactly decided yet. I have some other goals in the sport left to achieve that aren't around the Olympics. So world championships is one of them, and just improving my rank on the World Cup tour. And so I think moving forward, I haven't committed to another 4 years, but there are definitely, I have at least 1 or 2 more years in me because there are some things I'd really like to accomplish.
Let me just ask you quickly another reflection on the Olympics from 6 months ago. Some of the TV commentators, they were expressing, I think, I perceived it as surprise at how well you had done. Were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, yes, it came as a shock, but I had the mentality going into the Olympics that I just wanted to compete the way I trained because I felt good with my training leading up to the Olympics. And so if I could just put down the jumps that I was putting down in training, I would have been satisfied. And it was no secret. I was the only girl in the super final that was on the double. It was a stacked field, those 6 girls. There were 5 girls on the triple and then me on the double. And I also didn't have good results leading up to the Olympics in that World Cup tour in December and January. So yeah, I think it was a surprise to most people, but my training leading up to the Olympics was exactly where I wanted it to be. And so for me to just put down the jumps that I knew I could put down was a relief, but I was very excited to finally have a performance that I was proud of.
And again, we returned it. We're very proud of you. I have one other quick question, about a minute left. We saw a picture of you with your coach. You're an individual, but you're also part of a team. You were one of 4 representing women representing the United States on the women's aerial team. You had one teammate, Ashley Caldwell, who was competing in her 4th Olympics. She was among the first to congratulate you on the bronze medal. Ashley finished just behind you in 4th place. So in an individual sport where results matter, how important are your teammates?
They're really important. I know that individual sports, it can be hard to have that team culture, but for our sport specifically, it is scary some days being up there. And so to have the respect, mutual respect between your teammates is extremely important just to be able to do the sport day in and day out. And Ashley has always been a role model for me, starting the sport and then being on the national team. I've always looked up to her. I admire her hard work that she's put in, day out. And so to have that moment in the finish area with her was bittersweet because I know that she could have been on the top of that podium, no question.
Well, Megan, thank you very much for your thoughts and reflections and taking the time to be with us. I wish we had more time, but that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
And that is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit across the fence.